Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Enough to Keep Going podcast. This is the new format show for March 24th, 2022. I'm your host, TomMaster99. And tonight we'll be talking games. We'll have some news stories sprinkled in through these games. No Pickz PlayZ this week still. We're going to talk about that next week. Find out what we're playing here in a little bit, or at the end of the show, I should say. But before all that, I'm going to introduce you to our co-hosts for tonight. First up, the rising man himself, Mr. Gamelogic. Game, how are you? He's ill prepared. That's how he is.
Got to give him some time to get ready.
Oh. You're first on the list today, so that's what I was.
Responding to his name. How does this work?
Oh, and actually, I was muted, so everybody missed that joke. No, I'm good. Yeah. I was unprepared. I was unprepared because you usually come to me last. So that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh, he's definitely going to go to DBQ. Obviously. Clearly.
Of course. Throw a curveball. All right. Already take us off the rails. And of course, we have Mr. DBQ Hams. DB, how are you tonight?
That's good. 25 seconds before we got off the rails. Nice job. That was
right.
Solid.
New record
performance. Nice job.
That's right. Thank you. All right, let's get started here. We'll start with our new releases and then have some stories in there, some news stories in there. Gamelogic and I are playing Elden Ring. I actually just picked. Well, I shouldn't say I just picked it up. I actually bought it on the last episode last week. Had it downloading, so I played a little bit that night. I just got through like the tutorial stage.
So you actually did the tutorial? You dropped down into the hole and did the tutorial? Okay.
Yeah, into that first area. That's all, and that's all I could do at that point. Once I got to the end of it, because it was still downloading, it wouldn't let me pass that part. So, but I ended up playing again, or more over the weekend. So like Friday, Saturday, basically every day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of the weekend. I was putting some hours into it.
And this is your first Souls-like experience, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, full game. Yeah, I played a demo of the original Dark Souls back on the 360 back in the day. So, and I enjoyed what I played of it. I think I don't even think I got past the first boss, or I might have gotten past like the first mini boss or mid boss that was in that demo. And it was fine. Like I enjoyed it for what it was. But yeah, this is from what I've heard, and I only played a little bit of that one. This is a lot kind of different just because it's an open world game. And yeah, man,
how are you finding the combat and the timing and parrying?
I'm still trying to get used to that. Parrying, I was actually doing pretty decent on when I was first playing, and then I don't know, I've like lost my rhythm on doing that. It looks like that would be probably my best chance of getting past most of these guys. Is this kind of going through the parrying a little bit more. I got to practice that a little bit better. So I don't know why, like all of a sudden, I just can't do it anymore. And there's a little bit of a like a pause almost, because it kind of like winds up his shield and then he like goes like that. So I just got to get that timing down right again. I don't know why it's like I'm missing it a lot more now. Those last couple times I played, but yeah, that the first day, well, the first full day that I actually got to play, when I actually got into the open world, I was able to do it fairly well. But yeah, I mean, I started off kind of just going pretty much straight, like out of that beginning area, or once I get into the open world, or you get into the open world, and I was just getting wrecked, like just big time. So I kind of started kind of going to the left and right. I went all the way back to the beginning, like where they first come out of that hole or whatever, the cave. And I was kind of exploring more to the far left and far right, and I found out like kind of the right side was a little bit better, a little bit still not like super easy, but I wasn't like after like maybe one defeat, I was like, okay, I know what I got to do now. I was able to get through. So I'm kind of in this. I don't remember the names. Like people keep asking me on Discord and stuff on other servers, and I'm like, I don't know where I'm at. I just tell them I go to the right, and then I just went for like a while. And there's like a part where like there's these kind of like air currents, where like if you're on a horse, it kind of jumps you like up into like a higher area. So I got a little bit past that area, and I was doing that. So I'm kind of in like almost like a swampy area now. I think there's like a giant crab creature that's like roaming around this little watery area. So I'm about to try to fight that, but I'm sure that's things that's just gonna totally destroy me. So, but even before that, like I was like when I went straight, there was a part where there's like this big giant, I don't know, kind of humanoid, and kind of like had kind of part of its skin like almost kind of taken off, and kind of see his ribs a little bit and stuff like that. I fought him twice. Once in that area, and there's another area where you can fight the same monster. Kind of cheesed him though. So the first time I kind of let him out from this little kind of enclosure area, kind of like a bottleneck area, because there's all these other like knights and stuff that were in that same area, kind of shooting arrows at me. So I was like, all right, I can't. There's no way I can fight, both of these things at the same time. So I ran out of there, and I must have ran out like where his AI just, he's like, all right, I can't go past this certain area, because he was just standing there, or either that or he got stuck on something. I don't know. So I just like was shooting him with arrows, and I finally killed him. Second time, I finally got a horse. Like I don't even think I had my horse at that point, and then I finally got my horse as I went back and was exploring more, and I kind of was just like running around him on the horse, like just hitting him a couple times and running away, coming back and forth. So maybe not the way you're supposed to play, I guess, but that's the way I did it. So I'm just kind of trying.
You're not alone in that kind of like kind of bringing him into a spot where they get stuck on a landscape, or getting him in, that's been a Dark Souls standard, trying to catch somebody on the corner of a bridge for a long time. Okay, good.
I figured that was like a viable strategic plan there. But so the problem was, like, at first he's just like, using his fists and stomping, which is fine. I can get away from that. But then he like has a sword on his back that he actually brings out, and that's like little more far-reaching, so it's the more wider arc when he's swinging and stuff. So I was getting caught, like if I was just trying to play, just on foot. And sometimes like the evade works, like it seems, and other times it doesn't. Like even though I'm like doing the same thing and he's doing that same motion, like I'll get hit. So it's like, all right. And he was taking a lot of energy out, or a lot of health off. So I just started doing the horse thing that second time, and that's why I ran the first time. But other than that. I'm enjoying the game. I mean, I knew what I was getting into. Like I knew these games were hard, so I just gotta see. The thing is, I don't like what I'm gonna have to do in this game. I don't like to go and like read stuff on the internet to just figure it out how it is, because it seems like cheating kind of to me. Because it's like, I mean, I know there's like you had like guides and stuff back in the day, and even those I would never. I would never look at or buy or anything like that. Maybe I would have help from a friend if we were playing the same game. But most of the time, I could figure it out. But I think this game, I'm gonna have to read up and and look up some stuff, or at least watch a YouTube video or two, just to kind of figure out kind of how to do things sometimes. Just because I'm just getting like destroyed most of the time. So, Gamelogic, were you able to put more hours into this? And how are you faring?
Yeah, I put some more time into it. After we got off the call last week, the main one of the things I did was I really kind of stepped back and thought about how I wanted to play the game. And I'd written a blog post about just kind of what some of my feelings were on it, and kind of what I thought long term I would wind up getting out of this game. And so what that caused me to do is when I went back to it, later that night after I got off with you guys and the next day, is I just said, I'm not worried about fighting bosses, right? I'm not worried about mainlining the campaign. I said, what I really love about this game is that it's given me a map, and I love, what I talked to you guys about. In fact, I think one of our Pickz PlayZ assignments was, I love getting that map and kind of doing orienteering and kind of like making a decision and making the story my own, kind of just the same way that I played, Sid Meier's Pirates even back in the day, right? It was about me picking where I wanted to go and me deriving a story of that journey. And so before I talked to you guys, I was all wrapped around the axle about, fighting it out at Gateguard Ruins and then leveling up, and then I was going to go inside the castle to go fight, I think it's Godric that's inside there, or whatever the first boss is, or Godric or Godfrey, I can't remember if they're the same character, and I decided, no, I'm going to pick a cardinal direction on the map and an area that I want to explore, and I'm going to chart out that area of the map and search for adventure in that direction. And so I wound up making that selection to go due east. And so I went east and, encountered a horse rider. I can't remember. I think they're the Caden, who's like a warrior tribe. And there's a series of mounted riders that you kind of encounter who are patrolling, and then you find an encampment. And so, a bunch of trial and error. I certainly didn't finish it the first time, but, I went and eventually took out, one horse and rider and then the second, and then it was all a lot of, there's a lot of kind of tactical, determining the tactical distance at which you're going to aggro a character. And so it's a lot of like, two-stepping in and three-stepping back and kind of trying to lure one person out while not aggroing the other. So I did a lot of that, did a lot of fighting on horseback, did a lot of, and then there's a light of grace. There's one light of grace right in front of the castle, which causes you to have to kind of sneak past the guards at Gateguard Ruin. And then there's another light of grace on the back side of Gateguard Ruin. So, I'd spent some time taking down the garrison there first, and then starting to work, like I said, towards that Caden tribe, and then found loot and leveled up, and then determined that okay, and then there's like a ravine that you can't cross. Maybe you can make it on a double jump. I think you can't cross it, so I had to kind of. I hit that ravine, I had to kind of turn south and then figure out, okay, I'm going to go south to this bridge, and then I'm going to go across the bridge, and I'll be able to continue east. So there was more stuff to encounter there. And all during that time, when I got a certain number of runes, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back, right? I'm not going to, risk losing these runes. But by the same token, I was like, I had defeated that tribe of Caden, and I was like, I don't want to have to, like, let them respawn. So So as I was trying to work my way across that bridge, when I encountered like a new monster, which were these big, I call them tree. I know they're not ents, but I call them tree ents, like these big lumbering trees, basically, that are pulling this cart. And the cart, they're pulling the cart because the cart is like, they're pulling the cart by a chain, and the chains are attached to stakes, and they're big metal stakes, big metal pikes, and they're staked through their chest. And these guys are pulling them along. Naturally, now at this point, this is the largest enemy that I've encountered in the map. So again, it's one of those things like, okay, do you want to encounter it or do you run away? And one of the things that occurred that particular night, again, after I'd gotten off the call with you guys and kind of in what in my mind I feel like is kind of taking charge of the game and the experience, was I hit this definitive point where I talked to you guys when we were on the call last week about how, at least in Bloodborne and at least at the outset of this game, I was constantly in living fear, right? Everywhere I went, everywhere I looked, I was like, okay, there's something in every direction that can kill you, right? And so you got to be careful about each step you take in choosing which direction you go. And there's a definite point that night where it flipped from fear to adventure. And when I saw those tree ants, I was like, that away. Like, and so the experience now is much more about like let me look out on the horizon and pick the challenge I want, and let's torrent, get up, let's go. Right? And so it's a different kind of experience than I was originally going at it. Now, at some point I know that the game's going to like punish me and, send me back with my tail between my legs, and I'm going to be right back in old, Soulsborne boss battle shenanigans, but for now, it's a matter of like taking down targets, in the procedure that I want to. So I, again, heavily looking at the map, picking and choosing my direction, right, remembering where encounters were and like where people were going to be respawned. I went across the bridge, turned north, and started trekking up that way, encountered some more stuff, saw where the road branched, and I was like, okay, do I want to follow this up the other side of the ravine and see what I encounter, or do I want to take this road off to the north? So I branched off to the north. I found my first instance of this thing called the Artist Shack, which I know that there's some mystery behind it and the painting that's in it, but I don't know exactly how the pieces all go together. But from the Artist Shack, I then I see some other areas where there's some stuff to go kill, but then there's also my first pack of like bears, right, that I encountered. So again, what I would have done 24 hours beforehand, I would have been like, oh crap, bears. Let's not aggro them. But I was like, nope, let's go kill the bears. So, so I deliberately went down in like the lake where they were waiting, and made a decision about how to take one down while not aggroing the other, or listening out for the other one to hear whether or not I had aggroed him, and figured out at which point I would detach from the one battle I was in and figure out something different. But that's kind of been the approach that I've been going at it. It's a big map exploration thing, and I love seeing how that shadow, that fog of war, right, kind of goes away from the sections of the map as I go through them. So having a good time.
I don't remember if you mentioned last week, but what class did you pick?
So I am playing a Wretched.
Oh.
Which is like like most people, I don't even think know that this class exists, because it's literally like you have to like scroll down to like the very bottom of the character selection thing. I think there are 10 classes that you can play in the game, and this is like the 10th class. So you start off pretty much naked, except in like like slave like canvas diaper or whatever. Once you gain armor, that is no longer your appearance, but and you start off with a club, so. And from there, oh no, by the way, so when I took down those tree ants, by the way, also that stagecoach that they were carrying was, it's like the ones that you see at Gateguard Ruin. So once you take it down, you can go on to the back of that, and there should be treasure or loot in there.
The chest in there.
Yeah. One thing that I was not pleased about is if that thing respawns and reappears, and it's like it's not part of that geographic area. It like lumbers through, so it spawns somewhere and it transits across the map. So you could encounter it wherever, but if it respawns and it comes through again, you've already taken, like, even though it's another instance of that enemy, that chest is already open. So I was a little angry about that. I thought I'd encountered some decent thing to like rune farm and like weapon farm, and I was like, nope, I guess that's not the case.
That one they caught. That was too easy. Not like some of the other ones. Yeah, I picked the samurai. Is the one I picked. Samurai that can do it. So. My katana and my battle armor and stuff. Yeah, I picked up. It doesn't seem like I've picked up a ton of loot like so far. I mean, I've played a few hours so far, but I mean, I've only picked up things here and there. A lot of stuff. It tells me. I think I can use it, but it tells me that I can't use it effectively or something like that because I don't have the correct attributes. So I mean.
So this is a choice, right, for you to make. Like same thing, but it's. Do you use a big weapon that still causes a lot of damage and use it just inelegantly, or do you not use it? And I chose, like, I found like a two-handed sword and a mace and a battle axe, and it's to me it's a great feeling when you are wielding those weapons kind of clumsily, but they're still more effective than the club that I started off with. But then as you level up and you add points to your different stats, right? So I'm level 17 now, out of the 8 to 10 hours that I've played, and I started off just not being able to wield that great sword with any type of elegance, but I've leveled up strength enough to now I wield it, and like the power of being on horseback and being able to wield, and I've I've progressed through different stages where because I'd found a great sword, and I'd also found like a regular long sword, and so I found the great sword first. It was really clumsy, but I was doing more damage. Then I found the great sword, which I was able to wield more elegantly, but it doesn't do as much damage. But I felt like highly skilled with it. But then I continued leveling up, and this is over the course of like several battles, right? But now I'm at the point now where I can wield the great sword with a lot of elegance, right? And that just makes me like super powerful against like those tribesmen who were kicking my butt at first.
Yeah.
And so it's neat as you progress through those battles with a different loadout, based on what you can accommodate. And of course, I haven't found a shield yet, which is a little aggravating, but but in the meantime, you can of course dual wield, right, all sorts of weapons. So I can do my mace and my long sword, or my long sword and my great sword, and so they're really effective combat combinations.
Nice. Now, see, I didn't even know you can do a weed, so that just taught me something. So yeah, I found, I can't even remember the weapons now because I have plays in 6 Sunday. So I found a couple weapons and I think one shield so far, kind of a larger, like I think it was like one of those shields like the knights carry or similar to that. Wasn't I don't think is as big, but it looked like kind of that same thing. So yeah, I'll have to play around and see what I can do. But yeah, I kind of looked up kind of like how you kind of level up the samurai guy, like how you play him. So I'm gonna try that just to see, because I like him because he can do sword and he has a bow and arrow too that he can use ranged. He can do both, so it's kind of nice. So I've been using that.
Gamelogic, do you feel like the progression is tangible? Like as you're leveling up, the stats you're getting, are they enough to feel the difference between how you handle those weapons? Or does it take multiple levels before you actually feel a difference?
It takes multiple levels. It all depends. I mean, so what Tao's talking about is, I found the great sword. So all of your stats start off at 10. So when I found the great sword, I hadn't leveled up at all. My strength's a 10, but the requirement to wield the great sword effectively is like an 18 strength, right? So I had a ton of leveling that I didn't just the way I've been progressing, I haven't just poured all of my points into strength. I've been leveling up. I can't even remember exactly what all the stats are now when I'm not looking at them, but like wisdom and arcane and other things. So it takes a while. And again, those are choices you make. I think every person's got to decide how they want to go at it. I think what the impression I get that most players do is they would do that. They would pour everything into strength, right? And this is why people talk about having a power build or a strength build, right? I guess from years and years and years and years of role playing, ever since like tabletop pen and paper, I feel like that would be kind of a very boring character to play, and would also wouldn't prepare you for like when you found other things, right? So I've found my first scepter or staff or whatever. I still haven't found any spells, but when I do, I've put some points into the things that will help me wield those with some effectiveness. So, but yeah, but along the way, like they progressively get better. It's at least the way I feel. I don't think it's like you handle the great sword like a dolt, right, the entire time that you're leveling up from 10 to 18. I feel like it gets progressively a little bit better until you hit that, magic tip over point, and then you're like, whoa, right, so.
Yeah, I ended up, like I said, I was kind of, I started exploring a little bit more, then going kind of that straight. Well, I think the straight route was pretty much kind of the story, I guess. Like you follow the light, and kind of go through there. And I kind of want to do that because it looked like I got the horse. I believe I got the horse from following that, and I don't know if there's like other stuff that maybe you can get eventually. So I don't know. I'm just gonna explore for now, and then maybe once I power up a little bit, maybe I'll kind of continue the story side of it, just to see if you get any other kind of like power weapons or abilities or something like that, or whatever. But I don't know. Yeah, I'm enjoying it though. I like it so far. It's hard, it's tough, but like you said, you kind of pick how you want to play it. So you had a article here also from Polygon on Elden Ring on the multiplayer side of it.
Yeah. So this story over, as you mentioned, on Polygon by Ryan Gilliam. Elden Ring hackers are corrupting save files through invasions. Players are getting stuck under the world in an endless loop. Player versus player invasions are a staple of From Software games. Malicious players can enter your world in games from Demon Souls to Elden Ring, leading to intense, sometimes frustrating multiplayer moments, but players on PC are losing a lot more than their stock of runes due to a new exploit in Elden Ring. Somehow, invaders in the lands between have found a way to corrupt the save files of players they're invading on PC, sticking them in a never-ending death loop. And so what happens is when somebody comes into your game and does this exploit, you will respawn underneath the floor of the world, basically, and you will just continue falling to your death. Getting you died over and over. And then so once that happens, that will happen every single time that you load that save file. So it's a no fix has been issued for this.
And this is only on PC?
This is only on
corrupting?
PC. Yeah.
Okay.
And so the way people are working around this is they're doing Alt F4 to kill the program before their character's death, and then immediately hitting the map button once the game loads back up. If done correctly, the player gets lucky. They'll teleport safely to a site of grace. The easiest and only reliable solutions for players to back up their saves regularly, although that won't do players much good once they've already been trapped under the world. But for PC players who haven't run into this bug yet, backing up saves is a practice worth picking up. Now, so what I don't know, I don't even remember off the top of my head from my own save. So normally what I do in PC games is I normally keep 3 different save files. And so so each time for every 3 iterations of save, I will save to a discrete file. And then on the 4th save, I'll save back over the first one, right? So at no point in time should I ever be in a position where all 3 save files are corrupted or bad. I should always have, even if I have 1 bad, I should have 2 spares. I might have to do some redo. I can't remember if Elden Ring allows you to save multiple save files. I want to say that it does.
Remember, yeah.
So, but I can't remember for certain. I'll have to take a look at it. But if it does, that is one thing that I would do to this. The other thing is, as far as I understand, the only way people can come into your game is if you summon people. So just don't summon anyone and play it as a single-player game, which is the way that I'm playing it anyway, because I don't like people and I like to play games by myself. So, no, I mean, I like playing multiplayer, but like this, I'm not interested in summoning help because I'm having a hard time with a boss. I mean, I'll just suffer, even if that suffering means that I just give up on the game and walk away from it before, I call in another human being to help, especially when it could be somebody who's toxic.
I thought isn't there 2 different summons though? Like, I thought there was one where you can call for help and then the other one where or is it just random, like you don't know what you're going to get? For some reason, I thought there was 2 different ones.
I think there are. I think there are 2. I think you can summon for PvP.
Okay.
I think there's you get multiple types of fingers, right? And one is summoning for help, and I want to say that another one is summoning for PvP. But the point is, as far as I understand, I don't think that there is a way for somebody to just show up in your game. Unless you invite the vampire in through your front door, in which case, if the vampire has been invited in, then you should expect the vampire to be a vampire.
That's right. I think you can just turn it off too, can't you? Like the multiplayer altogether. I thought there was an option in there too.
I was searching for that because I'm used to the way you are. Like in games like even like Forza Horizon, or I think this is why I was thinking about this week because I was trying to remember what other games have this functionality. And I want to say the thing that used to bug me about Test Drive Unlimited back on the Xbox 360, I think that was a game where you couldn't turn that off. So all the time you were driving around, there were always other human beings in your game. But yeah, most games these days have a toggle switch that you can toggle to, prevent, exposure to other people in the game at all. But I don't think Elden Ring has one because I think its functionality is... for other people to get in your game, you have to specifically do a summon.
Okay. All right. Yeah, for some reason, I thought I saw that in there. Maybe it was for something else. Then I thought it was an online component, but that's all right. But yeah, I'm definitely. I haven't summoned anybody either. Like usually I don't do that anyways. So, and it's fine. It is what it is, I guess. All right, anything else on Elden Ring you want to talk about, or DB got any questions?
No,
You
I'm
didn't
ready
pick
to
up, right?
take your toxic player transition and jump into the next game.
I was going to say, speaking of online, TV, what have you been playing on the PS5?
So I downloaded GTA 5 online for the PS5. So PlayStation Plus subscribers get the new version of GTA 5 online for free, and the story mode is $10. On Xbox Series it is $20, which comes with both of them, or $10 just for online. Okay, so my history with GTA Online is that if you go back through the archives of Enough to Keep Going, I have a character on the Xbox of GTA Online on the Xbox One, and never got very far. It kind of dumped you in and sent you on a mission from the get go, and it was pretty. Not really, there wasn't a really good onboarding process or ramp. And this new version of it, or it's still the same game, but they've created similar to No Man's Sky, has increased its onboarding process, similar to many other online multiplayer games, that they've made the transition smoother for people getting in. GTA 5 online now makes a whole lot of sense for a new player, so that you start, you can choose more or less kind of a profession, a class. You can be a high-rise criminal, you can be a gun runner, you can own a nightclub or join a biker gang, and that kind of gives you somewhat of your class, more or less. Like, it gives you kind of a scope of types of professions that you're going to be spec'd towards, and gives you a place to start, gives you a little bit more of a transition, rather than just kind of dumping you into the world. That it within the first hour, I had a much more smooth, understandable process of how to get into the game and what to do than I did before. And in some ways, maybe for somebody who just wants to go around and muck around in GTA Online, the onboarding process prevents you from doing that initially, because you do need to kind of go through the steps. Well, I guess you don't have to. I could have waited to go to my bunker and just kind of continue to make havoc. But it does give you the ability to have a better sense of what you can be doing and how you can play in that world. So that part is actually enjoyable. I always have loved the concept of GTA 5 Online. Like, I've never really been super interested in the story, and the fun part about GTA is just exploring the world. So this is nice. I will say that the graphics and the frame rate look really nice. I am curious to jump back in, download it again on Xbox, and see if my previous character is still there, and if that character has the same kind of onboarding now, if it does kind of what No Man's Sky did, which was kind of reset people, or because I have a previous character, if it kind of throws me into the world post all of that onboarding. So, but at the same time, the dual sense is pretty nice. Like the haptic feedback, you're driving over rumble strips and you can feel them in your controller. The triggers feel nice, so that they have done some nice pieces here. Having it in HDR and running at 60 looks real nice on a 4K TV. So it is not nearly as blocky and clunky as this 9-year-old game would make you think it is. So surprisingly, I found a lot more enjoyment out of it than I expected. I expected to kind of have just a similar kind of frustrating experience, but just having it look a little nicer and run better. And so having something that did kind of give me a reason to keep exploring was, going back to Gamelogic's piece of like, yeah, half of it is the orienteering and just kind of traversing and exploring and defining your own path in this grand cityscape. Is there's still a lot there to have fun with. So and again, for free on PlayStation 5 is not so bad. It starts you with $4 million in credit, which gives you enough to kind of get going with a bunker and a nice vehicle and a handful of weapons. So you're not just kind of, and that was, that was also part of the challenge the last time, is that it threw you in as kind of the street level grunt running some low level missions without much in terms of weapons and vehicles. And so it changes the dynamics from being kind of a low level, gun for hire into a character that has more of a place in this world. So we'll see. I won't be surprised if I come back to it. How about that?
So is there an overall story that you can follow if you wanted to, or is it just kind of, because I know I played it back on, I don't think I really played it too much on Xbox One, but back on the 360, I jumped in there pretty often, and there was not really an overarching story, but the kind of story beats, like if you did certain missions.
There's definitely
mission.
There's mission beats. Like you can just go off and do your own stuff. It does kind of segregate things out. So if you just want to go do heists or do, other types of kind of daredevil types of stunts and things like that, there's segments there where you could choose to do that, or you can kind of go through some of the missions that are related to your character class.
Okay, all right, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't think I haven't tried playing it on the Xbox Series yet, so that'll be interesting. Maybe one day. I still have to go back and finish the story too, but that's another thing altogether. Now I know you were able to, like, I won't say turn off online, but you can like switch it where like people couldn't mess with you if you're just like screwing around in the world. Can you still do that? Do you know? Or like basically like you'd become intangible, like they just go through you if they try to crash into you or try to kill you or stuff like that. But I don't know if that's still an option or not.
I will be honest and say I haven't gotten far enough that it's given me that toggle. I don't remember that being there before. I mean, I think in partly probably because I never got through more of the orientation stages in the initial missions, where it kind of, I think it does kind of instance some of those things initially, so that you are kind of going through some of that piece before it tosses you into the larger, it's still the same world, but tosses you into the shared space rather than just the instance intro stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And I remember even back on the Xbox, the original Xbox One, it took forever to load into that game. Is it a little bit quicker now?
So faster, yes. Right?
Okay,
I mean,
good.
This is on Xbox One. It was so slow. Like it was over a minute to load in. It was, it was long to load into the online. And I mean, that's the other frame of reference that I have, is playing this even on the Series X, not the Series. I mean, on the Xbox One X, it's still loaded like molasses, and now I'm in within seconds, and that is, it makes it a whole lot easier to play the game. Like, it was such a time investment because every, not only the initial loading screen, but anytime you would die or any other kind of change in environments, the loading was just rough. And now it makes it a much more enjoyable process because you're kind of jumping in. It's a lot speedier and it snaps a lot more. That's
good. Yeah, I know that was one of the things they kind of touted back when they first announced it. So I'm glad that they sped it up. All right, cool. Gamelogic, any questions for DB? Comments? No.
The only other thing I want to say is, like, for all the wonders of smart delivery, the economic muscle of one of the greatest selling games of all time trumps it, right? That I own it on Xbox One, and in most other Xbox One games, I would download the series, the series version of it. I would download those assets, but not in this case. Like, if I go into my library, I only own the Xbox One version of it and not the Series X or S version of it.
Now, this is because the publisher has chosen to not
allow
you to be entitled through smart delivery. Yep. So it's a capability that's enabled by Xbox, by the platform, but is up to the publisher to reward or punish its customers.
That's exactly right. And for a publisher that has sold more copies of this over the last 9 years than anything else and continues to sell shark bucks like crazy, they know that there's no reason not to charge somebody an extra $10 to $20, because if you're already invested in it, you're probably going to pay it.
And Gearbox is doing the same thing, I believe, with at least physical versions of Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I believe if you buy that game physical for last gen, you are not entitled to a free upgrade on next gen.
Oh, and this is 2K again, right? And 2K did the same thing with NBA 2K, is that you had to buy, you either bought the cross-platform version, or if you bought the Series X or the Series disc, those Series discs don't play in an Xbox One. So, you don't get kind of the cross-gen unless you've purchased that bundle.
Yeah. I mean, that's up to them. So, all right. So, Gamelogic. You've been playing some more Destiny 2 and actually DB.
Yeah, so I guess I'll start off with a question. DB, or how far are you? Have you completed the Witch Queen?
No, I have not completed the Witch Queen. I'm probably, I guess, I've gone through the first strike. I know what the second strike is because I've run it in a Vanguard playlist, but I'm probably halfway through, 3/4 of the way through. So I'm at about 15 right now for a power level.
Okay, yeah, and I'm about I'm probably about a third of the way through on 2 playthroughs, a third of the way through on each. So I've run my Warlock and I've run my Titan up into relatively the same point. My Warlock is close to where my Titan left off, and then I'm probably going to start a Hunter run here in a little bit. But
so this is the first time in a while that you've run multiple classes through a Destiny campaign, isn't it? Since for not Forsaken? Forsaken probably was the last. The Cade Revenge story was that the last time that you ran multiple characters?
So I typically always run multiple characters. It's just that they've historically been on different platforms. But now that I'm only on PC,
that's the difference. Yep,
yeah.
That is the difference. Yep.
Yeah. So so it's a good camp. I like the campaign. I see what you were saying now about the different locales, and yeah, we've for years, we've kind of been, running in, and we've been, most campaigns are kind of centrified on one of the given planets on the main map for a big chunk of the adventure, typically split up in kind of into thirds, and then you get sent off to another planet to do another, 5 missions, and then you do some go fetch and back and forth, and Savathun's Throne World now introduces you to kind of a new terrain, and even that's, I think, split up between like this, this little edge section of Mars, and then a couple different sections of Savathun's Throne World that are neat because you haven't seen those before. So, Destiny 2 is Destiny 2. Some people get bored of it because they've dumped 1,000 hours into it, and they want more. That I've played plenty of it, but I maybe haven't played as much as people to the extent of where they get bored. So, like I said, recently what I was doing, I guess, so I think I started a Warlock run because of that weirdness of where, like, once you get the glaive, like, all of your characters have access to the glaive. And so when I started my Titan run, the Warlock hit a point where the next mission I wasn't power leveled to where I needed to be. So I did a little bit of the Beyond Light stuff because that particular Warlock hadn't done Beyond Light. And then when I went back, I started a Titan run, but the Titan, because it got like a head start, because it also already had the glaive, when I hit that same point, I had already leveled to 1420, so I could proceed on. So my Titan actually got further into the campaign than my Warlock did. So then I swung back to my Warlock, and I'm playing through that content again. But everything, I don't want to say that everything is better, but there's been so many quality of life things that have been added to the game over time. With now not having to monkey with shaders, being able to go back and get your exotics. I think I mentioned before that, now I've been able to go back and unvault or get back my Wither Horde. And now I can improve my Wither Horde, right? It's not just that you can go back and get the exotics, but you can go back and get the exotics and infuse them with higher level weapons that you see. So now my Wither Horde is like a 1460 weapon or something like that, which is just... It was already kind of my favorite weapon. Very stingy when you with ammo as you come across it, but I've found an ornament for it and all sorts of stuff. So it's neat. And then finally being able to apply like the same shader to like all of your character's armor pieces and not having to do them one by one. It's just so much of a better experience, even though those are all cosmetics. And it's always neat to go back. It's kind of weird in some of the boss battles. Like I'm sure you remember the one I don't know what they're called. They're some type of special centurions. I always call them the shaps because that's the noise their weapon makes. They lumber around with like this big side slung weapon and they fire it and it makes this like shap kind of sound.
Yeah,
but
this is the Cabal, right?
Yeah,
the big, yeah.
Right. So there's the one that you face in the room on the pyramid with the big statue that you have to go commune with, and it's just kind of amazing how much faster and more elegant you can pull off a battle, not based on power level, but just based on like being tactically aware of like what you need to do and like being able to move through that kind of instinctively instead of like you're in the middle of figuring out like, oh man, if I hide behind this, will I be okay? And so the first time I went through that room and tried to figure out what I needed to do, it was a comedy of errors, right, until I figured it out. But now I like run it back through with the Warlock after having done it before, and it's like even though there's no difference in power level, it's not like I'm coming back as a more powerful character, but just like I know the tactics that I'm gonna repeat and the strategy that I'm gonna use to get through the room, and you can get through it much quicker. So having a great time with it, man. Destiny's always one of my favorites.
It's still fun to play. Yep. So I do have to ask the classic running multiple characters question. So are you vaulting guns from your higher character to give your other characters a boost, or are you running them up kind of without that?
Every character's on their own.
Okay.
I mean, there's just... I vault weapons as a matter of kind of inventory clearing and making space, but like I don't know. It's just always felt like too many logistical shenanigans to like get to a vault, drop off weapons, do another run coming back, and stick in there a step of like going by the vault to pick what. I don't know. Every character's like their own thing, and yes, I'm vaulting weapons because eventually, I know that there will be some prudent reason to have them, but you just get so much stuff. Yeah.
You do. You get lots of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, then, yeah. And now even more so, especially with the exotics, the reason to vault something is even less because you can come back and, unless you have a really good roll and good stats on them. But even that assumes that you're playing at a level where that really makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I feel like it's already, and you and I both love the inventory meta. So we obviously spend time in it. And we obviously have to watch the temptation to spend so much time in it that we don't get enough gameplay done. And it's already, to me, enough of a cognitive load when that type of thing already attracts you to, I don't want to say master, but to get down the, okay, you've got an exotic or a legendary, and I used to just say, oh, a rare, but it's higher level. Let me go get that. No. Don't just grab that. Take your exotic or your legendary and infuse it with that rare, right? And keep your power level up with your more specialized and elite weapons so that you stack it with those bonuses. Like, that's enough of an inventory meta for me to, like, have to mentally juggle that, like, I don't need the added thing of, like, trying to manage my inventory across all three characters.
Well, I think that's a thing that this expansion has done really well, more so I think than the last two, is that along the battle pass, even if you're playing the free even just, the non-paid progression, that it's giving you enough upgrade modules to continue that infusion so that you are using weapons or gear or armor that you like, or that matches your playstyle, rather than having to drop something because you're short on upgrade modules. And so that makes a big difference in terms of kind of identifying and holding on to those weapons as well.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. They've always kind of historically felt like they were very stingy with those, and you would just get to a point where like you just got rid of stuff, right, or just broke stuff down to take it back to Banshee 44 or whatever, and hope that you could get something out of it. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff, and I know there were some opinions that like over looting or like there could be too much treasure, but like I don't know, man. I'm just a pack rat, and I just it's enjoyable to me the change in tactical drumbeat it makes when you just go in with a different loadout, right? And that's a fun thing for me. Yet again, kind of like Tao and I are with Xbox controllers. If I have 9 weapons in a given category, I'm going to use all 9 weapons. I'm obligated to, because somehow I paid for that, right? And I'm not getting all my ROI out of it unless I use all 9 at different stages. So I frequently swap loadouts. It's interesting too, you go into some of those battles and you realize like this is not the loadout. Like, I think it's only at this point that I've really kind of paid attention and not forced myself to go through the grind and the pain of, I go in with a loadout of like a hand cannon, a shotgun, and a grenade launcher. And I'm like, dude, you are not going to get enough ammo, right? You need to mix a scout rifle or a pulse rifle somewhere in there, or an auto rifle, to have some stuff at range.
Give you some range. Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah,
it's neat, man. I mean, after all these years, there's still stuff to do and juggle.
Exactly. And now we've got a little bit of a roadmap as well. Do you want to talk through the roadmap that they released?
Yeah, by all means, you're welcome to jump in and help me, because a lot of this stuff seems like a lot of the multiplayer stuff, which I don't know that I'm super interested in. But this story over on comicbook.com by Mark Deschamps. Destiny 2 outlines new season of the Risen activities. This article came out about 4 days ago, so at the beginning of the week. Destiny 2 fans have had a lot to get excited about over the last few weeks, and it seems that there's quite a bit more on the way. In a new This Week at Bungie blog post, the developer laid out what fans can expect from the game over the next 2 months, with tentative release dates for all of the content listed. The developer was quick to note that these dates could change, but it should give fans an idea of what's coming and when to expect it. The full list of release dates from Bungie's official website can be found below. So basically what this is a rolling wave of new content every week, essentially, is what this breaks down to. And I'll just go through the first few. And this was actually last week, March 15th, Iron Banner and a new PsyOps Battlegrounds location. This week, it's a Legend PsyOps Battlegrounds Vow of the Disciple Challenges. Next week, it is Trials Labs Zone Capture, and the week after that, it's Grandmaster Nightfalls. And it continues on as such for the remainder of the time. Like I said, most of this stuff looks like multiplayer stuff, maybe some stuff that you have to go in with a fire team.
Yeah, the Trials Labs are just kind of a tweak on Trials of Osiris, which has usually been a team deathmatch to some degree, and adding in zone capture into that changes things a little bit. The Grandmaster Nightfalls end up being kind of your high-end Nightfall content above and beyond. They're kind of at raid level in terms of what the power level is. Iron Banner came back. I think it's got some new weapons in it. I haven't looked at it enough to see. But again, Iron Banner has always been the one where, just like Trials, where your power level does make a difference, where in regular Crucible, you're normed on power level. And so the guns make a difference, but your power level does not. So yeah, just kind of getting that rotation in. I know Bungie's taken some significant flack, not just in this expansion, but in the previous couple years around its multiplayer focus or lack thereof. And so I think that this tries to get at some of that by saying, we may not be playing with the meta necessarily, but we're giving you a couple different experiences in terms of the Trials of Osiris Labs, things like that. And then we do get Guardian games coming back in May, which is the pick a class, do any activity, and you end up with leveling things up. I think the first time it went to first time it went to Titans, second time it went to Hunters. So, it's an armor set. It comes with a couple different shaders and banners and things like that. But yeah, again, not a whole lot of new content. The battlegrounds that you're talking about are related to the seasonal content within the season. And I'm not even sure how long that season goes on, but they're usually 3 months or so.
Does Destiny have a season pass? Is that what you're talking about when you say seasons?
Yeah, so there's a season pass. There's a free tier. There's a $9.99 tier as well, and that tier also then usually unlocks a certain PvE environment. The past couple, this time it's the PsyOps Battlegrounds. The last couple of times there's been different PvE events that you end up, you get currency X to then turn into vendor to turn into currency Y to feed up something else, right? I mean, it is often just a grind, but it is a grind for different things. I will say that I have not picked up a season since probably the first season of Beyond Light or the second season of Beyond Light. And in part, the grind usually gets me. I found myself burning out of it way too quickly. So it wasn't worth the season pass. But for people that enjoy and play it, there's, it seems like, again, in this season pass, they've added, it's staggered nicely and tiered nicely so that you are getting a good steady drip of things.
It's just all like skins for guns or shaders, I guess is what they call it.
It's usually it's cosmetic. It's things that will, it's catalysts that will change your gun. It is materials, and every once in a while, it's a exotic weapon, things like that.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. I'm going to finish off the new releases with not a new release per se, a new game for me because I haven't really played this before. I think I tried out once again a demo back on the 360, but Halo Wars Definitive Edition, and I actually played this on xCloud. I was just sitting one day on the couch and I was just like, I want to play something, but I don't know what. So I just flipped through Game Pass and I found this. I was like, all right, let me give this a try. This is not like I think the last game I tried was like Hades, which with the controls on because I was doing touch controls, it wasn't going to work. So I was trying to find something that was a little bit more touch friendly, that wouldn't be so obtrusive on the gameplay. So I picked Halo Wars. It's RTS, real time strategy. So I jumped in there. I actually played for maybe 20-30 minutes. I think that's all I had at that time. And even though I still don't like the placement of how they have the on-screen keys and the sticks and all that, I was able to play it. I mean, this is a little bit easier to play than like a Hades. So just going through that. I mean, and I always like real-time strategy games, so it was kind of right up my alley. So I was playing through this.
The touch interface is really just the virtual controller on the screen, and not like you can't drag. You can't use your finger as a mouse and highlight units and set waypoints and things like that for this RTS game.
No, correct. Yeah, it's just like an on-screen controller that you have on there. So I guess that's what they call touch controls. So I mean, that's what I was calling it. But yeah, so you and I mentioned it before. The big problem is that they kind of just have it like right in the center, off to the sides, but right on the center, up and down, on the sides of the controller, and it's kind of in the way. So I mean, I wish you could move it around, but it still doesn't look like, as far as I can tell, that you can do that. But yeah, I mean, it was fine for this game, and I was able to I just basically went through the tutorial stage. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, and I think I got further in this time than I did with the demo, which I think it was pretty much just started at the beginning of the game too, back when I played it back on the 360. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of continue playing that, and I might start playing some more xCloud. I'm gonna get like a controller, like the kind of clamp onto a phone and kind of play it that way. Hopefully that'll work. So and we'll see. Maybe in the coming weeks, I'll be able to play some more stuff.
So is this our obligatory Halo content on the drop of the Paramount Plus Halo series on the 24th?
That might have been another reason why I was like, oh, yeah, let me play this because the series is coming out. I think it came out today, I believe.
Yeah, although it is, I mean, for Xbox, one of your Game Pass perks is 3 months of Paramount Plus, which is kind of a nice perk for Game Pass holders.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Yeah, I saw that a few days ago. So yeah, I think the series is probably like a month and a half or so. So you should be able to go through it, with that subscription or for the trial, I should say. I did have like a year. There was like a deal last year for like a year of Paramount Plus, but I actually think if it hasn't expired already, it's probably going to within the next like week or so. So it kind of works out. So now I can watch the series. And I know some stuff I believe is free on there, but I think most of it's kind of behind the paywall, kind of behind the service. So you always get those free trials of shows and stuff like that. But anyways, I do want to watch that though. I want to check it out. I've seen mixed reviews, but see, I usually don't really care about those. So I just want to enjoy it. As long as it's like a fun action thing, that's fine with me. I don't think it too serious. But I'm gonna try to keep going with Halo Wars, and like I said, I'm gonna try to play some other stuff on xCloud if this device works out for me. Maybe I'll report back on it next week. So we'll see. All right. So any other things on the new releases? Anything else? Just jump into our round robin. The other stuff that we've been playing lately. Gamelogic. Going through the Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I can't say it. Modern Warfare.
That
2
Madden
campaign.
Warfare, yeah.
Yeah. Remastered. So how's that going?
That's going pretty good. Like I said, I came across this because the 67, the Battle.net spring sale is on, which goes through near the end of the month, and so I picked this game up for I think 25% off, and got it for $15. It had been on my radar for a while since it had come out because I was playing, Modern Warfare actively at the time. Not Modern Warfare. I guess I was playing. I was playing Modern Warfare, the reboot. And then, along came these campaign remasters. And I said, oh, that's interesting. I should eventually go back and try that out. And now with it going on sale, I did exactly that. This, of course, is the thing that formulates my grand fall off of the Call of Duty campaign. I can remember now. I've remembered it differently, but now having played through some of the campaign, my memories have solidified, and I remember I started the single-player campaign on this. Members of CAG had asked me to, play some multiplayer. I played some multiplayer with them, and then tried to get into some multiplayer elsewhere, and that's where I hit the realization that, the community had just become completely toxic at the time, if you're in there, in public chat. And I just got really, really turned off to the whole concept of Modern War at the time. Again, this was back in the early days, so 2010, this was kind of before the norms that we have come to expect of how people behave in social media and online had really kind of settled in. So it was back in the golden age of online interaction, and this was kind of, to me, the most significant, dumpster dive from where we had existed before. And I now also remember, having fallen off of the multiplayer, I also put the single-player campaign down, and then I want to say it was a year later was when I got that 4th or 5th red ring of death and said, I'm done with Xbox for 4 years, and so I never went back and completed this campaign. I played some of the big missions that people talk about and kind of remember in historical context, like No Russian, and did the same thing this time that I tried to do before, which was try to break that chain of events, and you can't. So I was, it's an instance of game design where there's an impression that you have some provenance over, how you want the scene to unfold, and you don't. I also, now having run this, remember that there are 2 rooftop sections, one of which is not enjoyable, and the latter of which is a little more kind of big dumb action movie set piece. And the way I had remembered it up until then was like, there's this great rooftop scene, and there's actually 2, and one of them is not that great. But it's neat that the campaign takes you around to different locales. I'm glad they have kind of moved away from this the structure of the single player campaigns in the early Call of Duties thing where you played like 3 or 4 different people. Modern Warfare 2 suffers from this. In fact, you play one of the people and that person dies. Like, you only play them for like 2 levels and then that person dies. And I'm like, I am not quite certain I understand really the whole narrative point of that. It doesn't really set anything up or like makes a major reveal that like the other characters you're playing don't know. So whatever. But having played last year's or 2 years ago's Cold War, of course, you've got Soap and Roach, and I hadn't even played it. I had not played it before enough to get up to the point where you get Captain Price again, right? And so that kind of solidified that whole kind of mythology now that exists within that chain of Call of Duty single-player campaigns that actually have continuity between them. And along the way, like I said, like you get some really neat set pieces, and you get to control a Predator drone, and basically a lot of these things that become I can't remember, what do they call them now in the Call of Duty now, Tau? Kill streaks, right? So the things you get access to is kill streaks in multiplayer. You get a little chance to kind of get a taste of them in the single player campaign, and those are neat. It's also event triggering as is the suffering pain point of many games like The Witcher. This one kind of suffers a little bit from them, where the NPCs will call out verbal commands, and you're like, what are you talking about? Like Sergeant Foley, one of the things that aggravates the heck out of me, who's played by Keith David, great voice actor and actor that we've seen on screen, and whose voice I immediately recognize when I hear it in a game. Was I think he's somewhere in Halo. I can't remember what character.
He's the Arbiter.
The Arbiter,
in
right?
Halo.
Yep. So your HUD has no cardinal directions on it, right? But when America gets invaded and you're like in a little, you're in a Virginia town, he's constantly saying, you need to go to that building to the west. I'm like, I don't know which direction the west is because I don't have cardinal directions on my HUD. So there's a little bit of that, and there's one point where you're getting attacked by aircraft, and again, you're in this Virginia town in kind of this commercial area with restaurants and stuff, and you're on the roof of one building, and there are stingers there, but you don't get attacked by any aircraft. There are some APCs and I think BMCs that are around that you need to take out, but the stingers can't be used against them. You have to find the rocket launcher, but nobody ever says anything about the rocket launcher. So the RPG, right? So you find that and you use that against these kind of tankish things. Then you are routed all 360 degrees around to different like little tactical events around the map. You eventually loop back right to where you're at this building across from the original restaurant you were in on the rooftop where there were these RPGs and stingers. At this point, aircraft come in and Foley tells you got to go get the stinger out of this restaurant to the west. Right, again, you have no idea exactly which one he's talking about. By the way, the restaurant has been bombed at this point, so it's completely deformed. So it doesn't even look like where you were before. So there's a contextual jump you have to make before you realize, oh, that's the rooftop I was on before. And then cross your fingers and hope that, because you don't really have a reason to believe that the Stinger missiles would still be on the rooftop after it's been bombed, or that the rooftop is an actual viable place that you can get to, right, and stand on to actually fire missiles. So there's some breakage in kind of how the story is strung together, and you can see the seams of where there's a difference in the storytelling, and I tell you, it also elicits this thing of like, people give Sledgehammer a lot of guff about being kind of, the tail end development studio out of that triumvirate, but I think at the end of the day, I mean, I really like the stories that Sledgehammer tells in that World War II setting. I loved WW2. Actually, I think it's what is that guy's name? The guy who used to be married to Fergie. I can't remember.
Josh Duvall.
Duham. His last name is Duhamel because his last name is.
Isn't it Josh Duvall or?
It's his last name's the same as the last name of a MotoGP rider. I can't remember. I always forget his first name though. But he was a guy who was married to Fergie, and then I think he was on the show Casino. He's also the main army guy in the Transformers.
Yes,
movies.
yes.
Yeah.
We're talking about the same person,
Okay.
and it was the NBC show Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is a nice mid-2000s callback.
Right. I think
Can't
you're right.
find anywhere.
I think you're right. I think his first name is Josh. I think it's Josh Duhamel. I think it's spelled Duhamel, which is what I call him, but I know that it's not. It's pronounced like Duhamel or something. I don't know. Anyway, I contend, because I've seen that guy in several, movies and TV shows. I contend that, like, I think his best role, his best portrayal ever was in WW2. So, but I think I really like stories. But you can see, and one of the differences is in the Sledgehammer stories, I have a more integrated feeling of continuity across each of the set pieces and scenes, and in a continuing story that's really tied and strung together. Whereas in the Infinity War stories, you can see that there are this list of things that need to happen as training events to the multiplayer. And there's like, okay, we need story pieces that make the person use the Predator drone, fire from the C-130, right? Get on a snowmobile, right? And then there are these points where a lot of the structural pieces around them from a story perspective kind of like don't make a lot of sense. Or, so it's a difference. Still, though, Modern Warfare 2 still, contains some significant scenes that people kind of remember nostalgically and harken back to, which is nice for a franchise that isn't known in the same way that like a Mass Effect or Morrowind games are known, for their narrative.
Yeah, Modern Warfare, that was like one of the few like back in the day that I actually didn't play at the time. I think I was still playing on PC at that point. And I think Modern Warfare 2 was like exclusive to something on the PC, and I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to use that service or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was, but it was like some exclusive thing that on the PC, like you couldn't just like buy it from like a regular store or whatever. So I wound up like skipping it. So I don't know, but I have to go back to it one day. There wasn't many that I've skipped, at least back then, but that was definitely one of them because of that weird reason. So, still playing on PC. So, which is weird because the original Modern Warfare, I actually played the beta on Xbox 360, and then I just bought it. The next two I bought, or the next one I bought for PC, or I bought that Modern Warfare for PC. So, I don't know. It was kind of weird, but anyways. So let's jump in. DB, any other questions or anything on Modern Warfare 2? All right. Jump into my next game. All right, Fortnite. Now, I know I play this a lot. The reason I put this on here is because the new season started this past week. Actually, on a Sunday, which is kind of weird because usually it's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is the normal days they release the new season. But the last season, Chapter 3, Season 1, ended on a Saturday night. They brought the servers down, brought it back up on Sunday, which usually they have like a big event, like a big the last few actually have been like interactive. This time it was just like straight, like they stopped the season and started back up. And the big thing here is now you got, of course, you got the new Battle Pass. You got a couple of crossover skins here. You got Doctor Strange and the Prowler from Marvel Comics, who the Prowler, if you don't know, is Miles Morales' uncle, Spider-Man Miles Morales. So I'm hoping maybe they'll have a Miles Morales skin. That'd be kind of cool. But the big thing here is they actually, and I never thought they would do this, but I don't know why they started now, but they actually took out the building from Fortnite. And this is not just like a limited time mode thing that they did this. They actually took it off from the main Battle Royale game. So
it's for the whole season, isn't it?
I don't know if it's for the whole season. I've been hearing that it's just for like maybe a week or two, and then they're going to bring it back.
I think literally before the podcast, I started seeing, and I had written a little microblog on Twitter earlier today of my prediction that if like there was a big economic uptick from this, that the no building would stick around. And I want to say Fortnite's no build mode is sticking around. So I'm trying to see if
I know I saw a lot of people saying they actually like it and they actually want to keep it at least as another mode like you can pick from. But for now, and when I say I heard, it's basically like from like YouTube videos that I've seen or just articles, more like speculation really, that it's going to just be like a week or two. But if it's the whole, the whole season, that'd be something, I guess. But
I think it's longer than the whole season. I think originally it was promulgated as an LTE, as a limited time event. for, like you said, for a couple of weeks. But Fortnite data miners have seemingly found confirmation that the game's limited time no build mode is here to stay. It was removed from Fortnite Battle Royale earlier this week as its Chapter 3 Season 2 began, but new leaks suggest that the developer Fortnite plans to include it later as a separate Fortnite game mode. So it looks like it's going from an LTE to just a separate mode, which is
just another mode.
Kind of one of the things that I speculated about, and I'm glad you had this in the rundown, was that, there's going to be the first-person shooter space, the shooter space, and Battle Royale online competitive PvP is going to become a very crowded space. When you look at, Sony indicating that it's going to have 10 new live service games, and hints, not confirmations, that have been dropped that leads me to believe that more than one of those is going to be a shooter, right? Depending on what Bungie's working on, little inklings that what Haven is working on is some type of multiplayer shooter. The guys who started the studio that Sony has a relationship with that were leads at Infinity Ward, and I think also worked on maybe Destiny 2 and or Halo. Pretty certain that's going to be a shooter. Guerrilla Games is working on so. This is going to be become an incredibly crowded place where typically I would contend up to this point only the big boys can really become profitable. Like I mentioned a couple years ago, like it didn't make sense for everybody to be doing battle royales because it's pretty proven that there can be at any one time 2, maybe 3 max that are really profitable and big going concerns. But this might be a way. First of all, with Fortnite, with players who have lapsed, I suspect that a lot of people will come back with no building around. I'm planning on coming back. I'm planning on getting off this podcast and downloading it myself, right? And I wasn't a big Fortnite player, but I love solos, and I love solos before the bot ramp, right? Before they started adding a lot more bots, because there were engagements like every couple of minutes. Because what I can't stand about battle royales is the long do loop of like loot for 10 minutes, and then you get like 30 seconds of fighting. And if that goes badly, then you've spent like 10 minutes and 30 seconds doing nothing but looting and and a little bit of combat. But so this might change that paradigm, and one of the things that I've been wondering is if everything's a battle royale, if everything's multiplayer, and the feeling is always that, well, these games are the same, right? There's very small things that differentiate them, so I'm only going to pick 1 or 2, right? Then maybe a way to differentiate is to have these little modes where you can differentiate enough that it maybe what it becomes is people will play 3, 4, or 5, but they won't play the big thing that's really like the main mode or the main framework of the game, but they'll play, they'll pick several games where they will play like these individual, little modes. Like on Halo, the sense I get of it is like there are some people who play everything in Halo, but there are lots of people who only play, what is the mode that they just brought back? I'm sorry, I'm not a big Halo guy, but the mode everybody was complaining that they didn't have.
I don't know. I haven't played in a while.
The mode that takes away all the...
Griffball, was it?
Big team battle, or...
No, not the big team battle, but it's the mode that plays like every other multiplayer game, right? It's the... People
yes. Yeah, they changed the Slayer one and took out some of the maps.
Yeah. Right. Because there wasn't...
So that it only is certain...
Right, because you couldn't have a dedicated Slayer playlist, right? But there are so many people who are like, I just like playing Slayer. Right, and that, like,
me. I like just playing Slayer.
Yeah, so standing on those little kind of what I've been calling micro modes, right, might be the way to sway players over. So, sorry to hijack your conversation, but
no, and you bring up a good point because they have actually been building that up over the last year or 2 years maybe now. It's kind of ramped up where they If you haven't gone into Fortnite for a while and you go into there where you change the modes, it looks like Roblox where they have, all right, so you got the regular solos, trio squads. You go down and maybe there's they do few limited time modes. They've done Floor's Lava kind of modes where there's literal lava that starts to rise up from the ground and you can only build up and that doesn't get destroyed. And just other kind of goofy modes like that. They had the 50v50. I think originally, I don't think they've done that one for a while. But then they threw on the creative portion of the mode, and people were going in there making their own games, obviously, because they can do that now. And they started making all these other kind of like little games, like um, what is the one they call? I think it's like they do like death runs, like where you kind of just running and there's different obstacles you have to jump through, and there's like I forgot some kind of color. I forgot what it is, but there's like colored mats, like squares on this board, on the square board, and and the little sign like picks a color. It might be like fruit or something, and then you have to kind of go to that square before it falls down. It's almost like a what's it called, like Fall Guys type of thing, like these little games that they make up, and just all these other modes they've done, even though they have the normal like I don't want to call it the horde mode, but what the original like single player, or not single player, the original like cooperative mode that they started off with, and now they've kind of the creative people, the just the community has made their own kind of like zombie. I guess with the zombies, they made their own kind of horde modes and zombie modes where it kind of like brings that to the next level. And other games, you can kind of tell like they've pulled that from other games and stuff like that. But they've been building this whole repertoire of like these mini games that you can do. And like I said, it looks just like Roblox when you kind of scroll through that pick a mode section now. So you might get a little overwhelmed when you go in there at first, but usually they have like the main stuff like right up on top. So it's actually not too bad until you start like kind of digging down. It's just like an endless page down of just like all these little mini games and stuff like that. So they've definitely have been building up to this, and this mode. I've been actually been playing this almost every day since it came out, and I'm really enjoying it. And like I mentioned, I think a few weeks ago, like I've actually been doing pretty good even before that, even before they changed the season, and now they kind of threw this in there, and it's like, oh, I gotta, I'm trying to, I've been so used to and so accustomed to building, like I'm trying to build when I can't anymore. So it's like, I even do that in like in other games, like in Apex or like in Warzone, I was playing that, like, you just kind of get stuck in that mindset. But there's a couple things they've actually put in there now. They have they've always had a sprint, but now they have what it's called a tactical sprint, which you've seen probably in Warzone, where you kind of throw your guns, your guns disappear and you're just like super fast running. And you can jump a little farther when you're doing that run, or there's a slide mechanic that they implemented last season, I should say. So you slide a little bit more when you do that run, and they also have mantling where you can like grab onto an edge and like pull yourself up and stuff like that. So it's more of like a kind of escape, defensive thing, and that they've added. So obviously to counteract the not having building anymore. So those are actually pretty cool things that you can do now. But it'll be interesting to see if they keep it up for the full season. I'm not sure if they'll do that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm sure if the internet starts crying, then maybe they'll throw it back up there, maybe a little bit sooner than later. But besides that, they have some new vehicles. They actually have tanks now, and actually you can drive. They just actually released, I think it was just a couple days ago, the actual battle bus that you usually fly in and you jump out of. You can drive that around in the map now. So so they have all these different kind of things, and I think they're supposed to release like some kind of I think it's like an anti-tank or any vehicle weapon where it can destroy obviously a tank in like probably a couple hits or so, or maybe even one hit. And I think there's supposed to be some air vehicles too that are going to come out later in the season. So they were always throwing stuff in there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. And but yeah, I've been really enjoying the season so far. And so I've been, like I said, I've been jumping in and playing every day. But we'll see how far this goes. So but yeah, besides that, I actually haven't won a match yet in this season, which is kind of weird. But I've been playing mostly solos, basically because I bought the battle pass, of course, as usual, and I'm just trying to do the challenges and stuff. And I usually do those challenges for the week, and I can usually catch up, within a few days or so, and then I'll jump into like trios or squads. The trios, maybe it's because of Apex, but I'm really enjoying the trios mode more than just a full squad, the 4-man squad. And it just seems like four people is a little bit too much. I mean, the map's pretty large, but still, it seems like it's just a little bit too much to handle. Like you're trying to figure out where all your guys are, and if you get more than one team that you're trying to fight, I mean you're pretty much wiped out at that point. Like if you get third party, as they like to say. So, but yeah, I'm enjoying this so far. All right. Any other comments or questions on this?
Well, I just want to mention it's funny that you mentioned that you were like in that mode and trying to do moves that like you can't do in that mode. Because just to go back to the Modern Warfare 2 campaign remastered, right? In revisionist history, like we forget, like I forgot there's no slide in Modern Warfare 2, so I'm constantly running around trying to hit the slide and dive behind cover, and like there's no slide. And mantling was very janky. Like what Infinity Ward did was it feels like they enabled it in certain places for you to mount certain objects, but it wasn't like global. Like you attempt to mantle over things that you should clearly be able to mantle over, and you can't. But there's an instance in that second rooftop scene where like you mantle over like an 8-foot high wall that's like over your head, like because it quickly clips to like a cutscene animation, like and so you go up and over this wall, and I'm like, why can I get up onto the rooftop in the favela, but I can't like hop over this little teeny tiny wall in front of the White House? Like it makes no sense. So yeah, it's funny.
So before we move on, let's just hit the other Fortnite news story that all proceeds within Fortnite from the 20th of March to the 3rd of April are going to Ukraine humanitarian relief.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, I think Microsoft was matching that or doing some other, I believe at the end of this article, or I think I closed it already, but I think Microsoft was doing some kind of match with that also. I don't know if it was just the proceeds that they received from Fortnite from, battle passes or whatever, but they were going to do that too. So it's good. All right. TV, you and I going back in time, playing a little Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And why? Well, actually, I was playing this a little bit before this past week when the new DLC for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has come out. Have you had a chance to play through all the maps yet?
Yeah, I've played through all the maps, right? I mean, between playing a 2013 game and playing a 2013 game with Mario Kart 8. Yeah, right. I've been playing some old games, but yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. If you have either the battle pass, not the battle pass, you could buy the expansion pass for $25, or if you have the expansion pass for Nintendo Online with Nintendo 64 and Genesis and a number of DLC things like this, it's there. So yes, there's 8 tracks in it. I'm enjoying it. It's fun. I mean, I've played with my kids. We went back through, like my 2 sons were raised on Mario Kart Wii for better or worse, and have played and owned all the other Mario Karts at some point in time. So it's fun. I enjoy it. It's fun to go back to some of those, the muscle memory of it. I find myself wanting to shake my controller as I go through Coconut Mall in true Wii fashion. But I think the one that I really am enjoying, and also, and in true Mario Kart fashion, blue shells still are terrible. And there's still just a randomness of I can run in second place and suddenly I'm back in 6th place, even just with a series of bad hits. But the ninja one, the final stage in the second cup has like multiple. So some of these tracks are from the Mario Kart Tour, on the mobile game, the ninja one has multiple pass through, like depending on where you can get to with your glider or cut through on some stairs, that you have a couple of different paths. It doesn't drastically make a shortcut, but it can kind of reduce the density and choke points within certain parts of the map. And so that's been kind of fun to play, because I never really got into any of the tour karts and tracks very much. So they felt new to me. How about you? How's your experience been?
Well, I'm glad you played them, because I have not played the new tracks yet. Because I found out, and I don't know, it's probably because I had played this before on the Wii U, back on the Wii U, and gold, got the gold medal, or not the gold medal, but the gold trophy on each course. I didn't do that on this one, on the Switch one, probably because of that reason, because it kind of was, and then everything was unlocked. So I'm actually going back and doing that just on the 50cc. I'm going to do that real quick, just so I can, I wanted to kind of get used to the controls too. So, but that's just my mind, where I have to gold all these before I can get to the next, move on to the next one. So I'm going to do that. I think I'm only like a couple of cups away. So before I can I can do these new races. But just getting back into the game itself, though, yeah, I mean, just like you said, this, I'm, doing the power drifts, and you get that little turbo that you get from those, and just trying to figure out all the all of the weapons again, and all the power ups. So it's just bringing me back, to why I love this series. And I'm the same way. I'm pretty sure I've had pretty much every Mario Kart except for maybe one or two of the mobile ones, or the mobile ones like DS or something like that. I don't remember. Was there one on the Game Boy, the original Game Boy?
No, not on the original Game Boy. The first handheld
so.
one was Mario Kart Advance on the GBA.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if I ever had that one or not. I know I had a GBA, but I just can't remember now. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun just going back and playing some of these maps, and like the first few races, it's a lot of kind of the older maps, and then I think it's like the third or fourth cup where they kind of throw in some of the new maps that they created. And actually, those new maps are they're really good. Like I just love the difference, or the kind of the difference in the tracks, where it's just kind of regular, you're going through and riding your bike or your cart, and then it kind of flips upside down because you got those like anti-gravity wheels or whatever. So you're just doing all these weird loops and twists and stuff like that. So there's some really cool designs in some of these maps, some of the newer maps. So
the one thing I will say on the expansion ones is you can tell the mobile ones, because some of the textures are not great on some of the mobile maps. Like you can tell that they brought over some of those assets, and then kind of, they weren't necessarily recreated. Like the grass and some of the landscapes look a little different than some of the native Mario Kart 8 ones.
Yeah. A little more flat, maybe. The textures and stuff. Yeah. I mean,
you're also driving by fast, so you're not really paying attention to the grass. But it is just it'll be interesting to see how much of a graphical pass some of these things get over the course of the next 2 years of Mario Kart tracks, or year of Mario Kart tracks.
Yeah.
But yeah,
was it 16 or 12 or something? No, not 12. It couldn't be 12.
48 tracks total
altogether, right?
in waves of 8. So
did they say how often they're releasing it? Is it once a month then, or they haven't really said that?
Well, what? This is Nintendo. Why would they tell you how often they're going to release something? You should just be glad that they're releasing it, and give them more money for tracks you've already paid for. So they're not going to give you a timetable, because they're just going to delay it.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I mean, they kind of outlined the.
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Though,
yes.
I mean, originally.
There was
or give you like a vague
tip, yes, that you knew within this quarter you'd get a drop of somebody. Yeah. I would anticipate you'd probably, it would be a quarterly type of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. All right. Okay. So along those lines, I'm going to jump into my news story. Unless Gamelogic had any comments on Mario Kart 8. All right. I want to jump into my first news story here, which is the newest Switch version, OS version, 14.0.0. You get a couple things here. You get some Bluetooth audio changes, which I didn't realize. I think I've only used it a couple times, but so now you can obviously pair Bluetooth headphones to your Switch, and you couldn't use, I guess, the actual device's volume control before, which I thought you could, but it's kind of weird. But now you can. They've actually upgraded that. And so you can see that, and there's a visual representation on the screen when you change that. So that's nice. But then the other thing they've done now is groups, aka folders, that you can do now. So you can bunch together, a bunch of different games or same games, excuse me. But I was looking at this because I was like, oh, cool! Finally, you can do folders. But you kind of have to go into that all applications. I don't know if you've looked at it, DB, or not, or Gamelogic. You kind of have to go into that all applications section, which is usually, if you go all the way to the right side, and then you have all apps, excuse me. And then there's I think you hit the left shoulder button, I believe, to go into the groups, and then you can create groups and group a bunch of different games together. But I was kind of hoping that would be on the main screen. I guess that kind of doesn't make sense though, with kind of the way the Switch is. I think they're kind of keeping that main screen just for like the quick, what you've been playing lately. So it just seems it's kind of a waste.
I anticipated it would be the main screen. So hearing you say that seems like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to go to that first, and then you have to hit another button, and then you go into the that section. So I was like, I mean, I guess it's okay, but I was kind of disappointed, a little disappointed in that.
Well, this is my thing, and I've been going through some considerations this week for a lot of what I feel like is nickel backing that goes on in the gaming community. But like, I saw people giving Nintendo flack about this feature for like bringing it along so late, and I'm like, do you have folders on the PlayStation and Xbox? And does anybody use them? Because when I played on console, I've never used any type of subordinate, parent-child.
You got the pins, I guess, on Xbox. I don't know about PlayStation.
Right, but those are. I mean, so there's a thing you can do, but it's not folders. So I just feel like people were way overly caustic about an organizational paradigm that on gaming consoles just doesn't exist. It's an antiquated methodology in comparison to a full-blown PC operating system. But for a gaming console, I thought it was a neat contribution that they made. I mean, it exists on mobile. Like, if you want to group your games into folders on a mobile device, you can certainly do that. But it's not a paradigm that typically exists on an entertainment appliance. So it's just a weird flex to me for people to be trashing Nintendo for bringing folders along so late. And I'm like, last time I checked, 99% of PlayStation users that I see and Xbox users that I see just go into their tab and like search like a catalog of 100 games like by alphabetical order. Like, I don't know that anybody does anything more sophisticated than that.
I mean, I think you're right. I think it is easy to rag on Nintendo to that degree. I will say, though, after recently firing up my 3DS, that there's folders there. I mean, there were folders there early on in order to, and then partly it's the tile layout of the bottom screen of the 3DS made that more possible. But that was, going back and after charging my 3DS and finding a charger. But right, like I forgot that I had made so many folders, and I forgot that I had all the eShop games that I had. So, that organization is nice, but it's a free upgrade. It's not like you're paying anything. They didn't lock it behind the expansion pass for the online. So. No.
Yeah, and even that functionality of having to go to the main screen. When I had my Switch, like that's the screen that I lived on. Like, because I play kind of as a variety gamer so often that I'm typically not looking for a thing that I played recently. I'm typically looking for a thing that's not necessarily on that front tile, or at least when I want to go make my choice of what to play next, I want to see my entire catalog to make my choice from. I don't want to see like the 5 things that I played most recently to choose from.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are only 2 features, excuse me, that came out on this 14.0. So, I mean, it's fine. I'll leave it at that. So then the other story I had was PS5. Also got a update. We have some hold on a second. Some voice commands now that you can do. Kind of doing like Alexa or Siri. You can say, "Hey, PlayStation." You could pause and play stuff on your different media, like music or movies, I'm assuming. Open different apps, stuff like that. They also have new party chat options where you can either go into party chat where anybody can hear you, like regardless of if you're in, you're in that party or not, or a closed party where obviously it's only the people in your group. So they've added those, and then they've also mentioned that they're going to do the variable refresh rate here in the coming months. So if you have an HDMI 2.0 compatible TV or PC monitor, you can experience smoother gameplay, sharper graphics, and reduced input lag. So,
is that enabled over HDMI 2.0 or 2.1?
I'm sorry, 2.1.
Okay.
Sorry. I think I said 2.0. Yeah, that was my fault. So yeah, that part hasn't, the HDMI thing hasn't come out, or the VRR variable refresh rate hasn't come out yet. That'll be coming in the coming months. They said they didn't give an exact date though, so we'll see on that. Anything there that interests you, DB? I know Gamelogic, you don't have your PlayStation anymore, but
no, I mean it'll be interesting. I'm glad that they're doing it in terms of the refresh rate in the next one. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. But yeah, I want to move on to the next one since I just picked up that bundle this morning. So,
all right, Gamelogic, go ahead.
Oh, you just picked up the Humble Bundle, Greg? Awesome.
Yeah, the Ukrainian bundle. Yep.
So I I came across this because I came across this news story that was about the Humble Stand Ukraine bundle a couple of weeks ago.
It's not just me tonight.
I think this actually started a couple of weeks ago, but I'll start with the news story first. But Humble Bundle is running a deal where for $40 at a minimum, you can always contribute more than that if you want to. There is just a stink ton of games that you can pick up for that price through Humble. And yeah, go ahead, DB.
I was gonna say it's probably about 50 games, but then you also get some tabletop Pathfinder stuff. You get some graphic novels. You get some comic collections. You get RPG Maker. Yeah, you get some software in there as well. So a number of over 120 pieces of content total.
Yeah, you get some apps and like DB mentioned, some content creation stuff. You get the Music Maker EDM edition. I used to use Music Maker back in the day, so I think that's a pretty good app for anybody who wants to dabble with making some digital audio. But the games in this pack, I mean, there's plenty of kind of like the indie stuff, but there are also some significant things in here that are easily $40 by themselves. So Back for Blood is in here. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons from Hazelight. Is it Hazelight Studios? That
the It Takes Two and No Way Out or Way Out. Yep.
So that's in there. I picked up. I grabbed Endless Space 2. Was kind of my major thing that I was focused on. Kerbal Space Program is in here. Max Payne 3, Metro Exodus, right in a bundle for $40. Like that is a high-end, high graphic fidelity, first-person shooter, open-ish world kind of thing that's in this bundle, which is just pretty amazing. PGA Tour 2K21, which I guess was...
Great game, yeah. It's excellent, yeah. I've sunk a lot of hours into that. The Spiral trilogy is in here.
Yep. So while we've been slagging 2K... This is from 2K, right? So while we've been slagging 2K about some of their draconian practices, I guess this is their, charitable contribution. So I guess we should give them a little relaxation on that. Sunset Overdrive is in here. This War of Mine. Just an amazing, pretty amazing. Yeah, Slay the Spire. Just a pretty amazing set of games. I thought.
Also, with Advance Wars being delayed, you get Wargroove in here as well. So.
Yep.
But you've only got less than a day. So if you're listening to this now or you hear it, it ends on the 25th of March.
Yep. So tomorrow at, technically it says at 1:59 p.m. Eastern Time. So don't round off to 2 p.m. It's 1:59 p.m. And I'll tweet something out about this to remind people if I don't get the episode up. I'm planning on hoping to get the episode up in the morning, but I don't know that somebody will listen to it all the way through by 2 p.m. But the game that I've been focusing on out of this is Endless Space 2, which has been on my Steam wish list almost since it came out back in 2017. We talked about a lot of... excuse me just a sec.
So I'll say before we head into this that there's a couple of other games here that I was interested in. Some games that came out just this past year, like Rustler, which is the Western GTA type of over-the-top game. Also, This American Circus is something that I had on my kind of wish list. Small little indie narrative experience. So a whole run the gamut of different types of games.
Yep. Like I said, Endless Space 2 has been on my wish list almost since it came out. It is a big 4X turn-based strategy game. We talked a lot tonight about shooters and high adventure games, but I also mentioned, last week that I've been playing Expeditions Rome, and so I've definitely had, since I've gone to PC only, I've definitely been looking to exercise my, get through my yen of like big love of like Civilization 4 type games. I never played Masters of Orion, but I was a huge fan and put a good amount of time into Galactic Civilizations 2 and 3, or Gal Civ. And I guess the sci-fi Age of Wonders that came out from Paradox a couple of years ago, I want to say. So, this has been on my radar for a while, as well as Stellaris, which I haven't gotten into yet. This has some rough edges around it. The UI, this is another thing we're kind of like Prime said. Now I'm approaching Elden Ring the same way. I've looked at like no guides. I've seen little things that people have tweeted out, but I haven't dug into any like big clues. I'm approaching Endless Space 2 kind of the same way as normal, with games, as I've mentioned to you guys in the past. Like, if the game's not intuitive enough for me to just kind of figure it out on my own, then I feel like that's a design flaw. So, I've been going through this. There are some rough edges here where I've also mentioned before, like I'm not a big fan of campaigns in turn-based strategy games and RTSs. I just like conquer the world. Let me go out and use like all of the skill sets and all of the things that are available to me. Don't give me these little contrived scenarios where you've given me 10 tools, but for this scenario, you're going to take 3 of them away. So I've been approaching it. And so I went into the first scenario and randomized my race, but yet what it started me on was like the standard human, Imperial Empire, whatever thing from the can scenario. So one of the things I do like is it seems like you have the conquer the world kind of modality, but then they give you kind of little tiny quests along the way. So it's a little kind of Destiny 2 like when you're not playing like the big Destiny 2 campaign, but you have like these little incremental quests that you can go on to just go do some chores and get rewards out of them. In Endless Space 2 you have your effort to conquer the world, but they will also throw at you like little kind of chapter-oriented quests to take on, which you don't have to turn all of your forces onto. You can pick like one of your fleets to go after. There are some rough edges here, like I said. You can't transit anywhere on the map. You have to go through like designated space lanes. And I'm like, why is there a designated space lane in unknown territory? So I kind of working through that. I also have not figured out. This is a thing I am going to Google for. It does not seem, at least natively, intuitively, that you have an ability to rename ships, which to me is kind of a fundamental thing in a big 4X game like this. And so you design ship classes and build types which have like stock names, and then every iteration of that same class of ship you create has the same name. The fleets are individually named, but I haven't seen a way for you to like pick what the fleet names are. So it's lacking in a little bit of kind of standard customization that I would expect from this. But in a lot of ways, I've been able to get through most of kind of some of the weird sticky points of like very deep kind of esoteric rule sets, like when you build a ship, it initially stages in a hangar, and so you have to create even if your intention is to take that ship and put it in another fleet, you have to make it a fleet of its own, and then you have to merge the 2 fleets, right? Which is, I was able to figure it out, but I was like, that's maybe not entirely unintuitive, but I don't know how logical or rational it is. So, but I'm working through that stuff, and there's a little bit of a nit in terms of kind of how you research stuff that took me a little while to figure out that you have a certain amount of research capacity, and so it makes sense to, in a very EVE Online type of way, it makes sense to be researching multiple types of technology at once, because you can only exert so much capacity on researching one type of tech, and then otherwise you just have leftover capacity. Because you can research 27 units doesn't mean you can research 27 units all at once. You can only focus like so many on one type of research at a time, and then you have spare capacity. So I may have screwed that up because I went through several turns of like only researching one thing at a time, because that's kind of the Civ paradigm, right? So I may have to go back and kind of restart that over. But in large part, this tickles my fancy for a 4X games. It gives me a lot of providence, and I can go out and search the galaxy however I want to. Lets me build my fleets. Lets me build improvements on planets. The other thing I don't like about the UI is it doesn't, as far as I can tell, it doesn't present a view where I could see all the improvements that I've already done. Kind of like in Civ, when you look at a city, you can tell, right? You get an iconic representation of like what improvements you've already done on that city, as well as like a graphical presentation. This thing, like when you do an improvement, it seems to like kind of like just go away. So and then it just shows you like in the UI like the stuff that's remaining for you to do. So that's a little problematic, but it's been tickling my itch. I put like about 3 hours into it. It's definitely a thing that I've got a hunger in the pit of my belly to go back and play some more of. So it definitely has that just one more turn hook. Good chance that I will be sinking a bunch of time into this over the next couple weeks.
So had you played? I'm sorry, because I was looking up something. But had you played the other, or had you played the first Endless Space, or how did you find like this game, or just after you bought it, you were just like, oh, this one looks kind of interesting when you're looking through the different games in that bundle?
No, what I was saying was Endless Space 2 has been on my wish list, on my Steam wish list for quite a while, just because it's one of those games that's out. You know, there are games of this type that are, you know, what is it? I can't remember what it's called. You know, Solaris or Solar Endless, whatever. You know, there's
Galactic Civilizations. Yeah, it's all in that same.
Yeah, there's a bunch of games that are kind of in this bucket that people who like playing them are kind of all well aware of, and you kind of keep them on a little checklist. And Endless Space 2 was just one that I had not gotten around to yet. Like I mentioned, along with like Stellaris is another one that I eventually want to get to.
Nice. All right. Yeah, and actually, I had bought this. I haven't redeemed any keys yet because I gotta like look through all these games and see what I want to play. Some of them I've had, like Back 4 Blood. I have played before. Actually, the one I was kind of interested in was Rise, Son of Rome. I never did play that back in the day, so that would be interesting to play. And there's another one here. I forgot which one it was.
So one of the things that I haven't tried yet is when you go to redeem your keys, it says Steam will not provide extra giftable copies of games that are already in your library. So if you what I'm curious is I haven't revealed a Steam key yet for something that I have. So I wonder, like, if you gave that key away, is it not going to work because it's only tied to the Steam account that's linked within your Humble? Or I mean, again, I'm not complaining because it's a ton of content and it all goes to, you know, relief efforts. So I think this is probably part of the way that they're doing it so that you can't kind of resell stuff or give things away.
Because I mean, you don't have the Humble Bundle like, how can I say it? Like merged with your Steam account though, right? Because wouldn't this just be a separate key that they reveal?
No, I think the thing is, so Humble Bundle does not have inherently integrated with its schema any type of DRM, and so it's gonna, what they're giving you is a key that leverages the Steam DRM. So it probably is the way you mentioned, DB, is like it's gonna give you keys that are associated with your account. But like you said, like I don't. I mean, in keys directly from Steam are associated with your account at the point of purchase. So I guess at any point, if you've purchased that game before, it's just going to be another instance in your library with an additional
It's not going to allow you to. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that does. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because like I said, I haven't had a chance to, you know, reveal any of these keys or do anything yet. So I didn't know how it works. I know there's a little option here. It says link your Steam account. But if you don't do that, wouldn't you just get like a generic key then? Or I guess that's what I'm trying to ask. Because that would make sense then.
I am not sure because my Humble Bundle has been linked to my Steam account for so long. So
okay. So maybe, yeah. For you, maybe that's the one. Yeah.
Well, what I would do is take a look at, like, if you're going to do it, take a look at it, check out. I want to say that the way that I think that it works is if you are buying something that is a Steam key, you have to link your account. But
okay.
Yeah, I think that's the way it works.
So when you go to reveal it, check out, like, hey, log in. Okay, yeah.
Well, I think at the point of sale, they're going to require you, because what they're going to do is, I'm pretty sure the way it is on the back end is that there's, you know, shared database or RESTful APIs that will pass over to Steam, right? That key is registered to your Steam account.
Yeah, because there's been times throughout this bundle where they ran out of keys for Back 4 Blood at one point in time. This morning when I purchased it, they didn't have any keys for Spyro because they ran out, and now they're back. So, you know, they are pulling in. But yeah, I think I think you can buy it without linking your Steam, but then when you go to reveal a key, you need to tie it to.
Right. So you have to log in. Yeah.
I mean, I already own Brothers, so I'll probably send this to a friend just to see how it works. But
yeah,
at the same time,
I was just wondering because I've seen that in other servers where people are like, oh, here, I already got this, so here, you can use it. So I don't know if they actually were able to redeem it or not. They didn't say, so I was just wondering.
Well, if it works like that, if you can link it after the point of sale, then what would be logical is that you could then gift it, because if you email, copy and paste that key to somebody,
Right.
yeah, but not gift it through Steam,
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, that may be the difference.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Quantum Break. That was the other one. That was the other one I wanted to try out. So I never got a chance to get that one. So yeah, a lot of good stuff on there. All right. Anything else from? Well, I guess if there's anything else for games that you want to play, or anything that you want to talk about that you're going to play next, DB, looks like you got something that you're going to jump into.
Yeah, I started on Kenna Bridge of Spirits on PlayStation 5. This is by Ember Labs, came out last year. You know, I'll talk more about it. I just got through kind of the opening, so I'll talk more about it next week.
Okay, cool. Gamelogic, a little more Destiny 2.
Yep, probably most likely. Although what's in my windshield is Destiny 2, playing Fortnite. I still haven't gotten around to Apex, that arena mode that you told me about. And I want to play some more Endless Space 2. So I got a few things in my windshield that I'm struggling to decide which one to go after.
Some's going to be wiped away, though. And then, of course, I'm going to be playing more Elden Ring. But like I said, I'm probably going to do some more xCloud game to see how if I get the device in time, works for next show. All right. So next week, we will report out on our Pickz PlayZ. I'll just go over this real quick for a reminder. With rumors or news around Call of Duty taking 2023 off and a third Pokemon game coming within 12 months, what other games or series should consider taking a break or giving a franchise time to breathe? Alternatively, what series took a break and came back inspired? Play a game that touches on these topics and discuss why a break would be beneficial or why a pause reset was helpful creatively. Sorry, can't talk today. DB, you're going to be doing NBA Live. Gamelogic, you're going to be still be going through Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 campaign remastered, and then I'm going to playing Madden 22 right now. So we'll report on those next week. And next week, so all three of us should be on the show, and DBQ will be hosting. Take over the hosting duties. All right, gentlemen. Anything else for tonight that you want to say or cover? No. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Gamelogic. Thank you, DBQ Hams. It was a great show. Had a lot to talk about. Some things more than I actually thought that we weren't going to talk about, but of course, we always have a good conversations during the show. So, thank you, gentlemen. Everybody, thank you for watching or listening. Take care of yourselves out there, and we will see you next time.